Hello and welcome back to the Quality Matters Daily Dive. I am Kyle Chambers, and reminder, Quality Matters is brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified. Now, I have to start by apologizing. I said I was going to do these daily live streams, and when men make plans, God laughs, right? But back at it, we're picking up where we left off last week, and we're going to be talking about the quality policy and objectives. So, depending on kind of where your mindset is, this may be incredibly important for your organization, or you may think, oh, this is just one more thing that we're going to pencil whip. I've seen both, and I understand both perspectives. But we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to write that policy, what the objectives are, what the standard says, and I'm going to get you a little bit of useful information because we've got a blog post that we wrote here a while back that really great information. We kind of walk through creating a sample of it. So, I think it's something that you're really going to appreciate. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen here. I'll just stick myself over here in the corner. So if you haven't been here already, Texas Quality Assurance, we've got the blog. It's right here, the QMS Simplified articles. I'm telling you, lots of good stuff up there, and we're going to be putting a ton more content up there. By the end of the year, my goal is that Texas Quality Assurance, we have more free information, resources, tips, tricks, helpful articles, sample documents that we are putting out for free than anyone else in the space. So I want to make certain that we give you the tools you need to do your job, to save time, to save energy for what matters most. So with that, let's jump in here. We're going to take a look at one of our articles. This is ISO 9001 Clauses Explained, 5.2 for the policy and 6.2 for the quality objectives and planning to achieve them. All right, so we'll zoom in here. Hey, you see I've already done a little video on this before. Hey, if you haven't already, I would encourage you to check us out on Rumble. All you have to do, go to rumble.com. It's kind of like YouTube, but a little bit easier for creators to put content on, I might argue. And all you need to do is just search for us there for Quality Matters. And you'll pull us up right there. And so, ta-da! Here's my mug and Quality Matters. But we've got all of these daily dives are going up there, as well as our weekly full-length podcast episodes. So do check it out. Do hit the subscribe button. It really does a lot to help us and to support us. We're putting out tons of content for free, and subscribing on Rumble really is going to be a great way to help ensure that we can keep putting this free content out for you. Don't get me wrong, Texas Quality Assurance, we do our own consulting work and consulting side of the business, but I understand how valuable these free tools and resources are. So help us make that available for you. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. All right, so what we're doing here is we're talking about the policy for the management system. Now, to be clear, we're going to talk quality today, but it's not limited to quality. This same idea can be applied for health and safety, for environmental. We just shift our focus. Now, I've talked about this before, but when we're talking quality, we're talking about the outputs of products and services. Okay, go back and check the process mapping video, and you'll understand better about what I mean by outputs there. But for quality, we're looking at the outputs of our products and services. For safety, we're looking at the health and safety and well-being of our employees. For the environment, we're looking at any spills, any environmental issues, real good tie into a lot of the ESG metrics that are out there. It's going to be a real fun topic we're talking about soon. So let's see what the standard has to say. So in clause 5.2.2, and we can pull a standard here as well. So we'll go down to clause 5.2.2, communicating the quality policy. Now, this is one of the things where we're really focusing on an awareness piece, that competence training awareness triad. But what we want to do is make certain that it's maintained as documented information. Whole lot of requirements for documented information, so we're just kind of lumping those up in there. But it means it's got to be approved. We keep track of the versions, all the good basic stuff. Has to be communicated, understood, and applied within the organization. Okay, people don't need to recite it verbatim. Okay, this isn't like your third grade spelling test. We don't expect absolute perfect memory of it. We want folks to be able to internalize what this means to them, to their role in the organization. Truthfully, in the time that I spent as an ISO external auditor, I was much, much more impressed when someone would give me their own personal interpretation of what quality and the quality policy meant to them, as opposed to just rote memorization. For the most part, we can all memorize anything. Doesn't mean we understand or apply any of it. And that's exactly what the standard wants here. So they want it to be understood and applied with good reason. Now, the last piece here needs to be relevant to interested parties as appropriate. All that means, make certain that the policy not only fits your business and your vision, but where you fit within the grand scheme of things within your organization. Just make sure it makes sense to you. So let's talk about establishing it. So top management style: establish, implement, and maintain. This is what I reference oftentimes as the trifecta of ambiguous words, but it means that you have no choice, no option but to do it. So you could just do a quick search of the standard for establish, implement, and maintain. That might be a fun blog post article there as well. Let's look at all of these required areas. In the previous editions of the standard, we had what we called the mandatory documents, the mandatory records. They don't really do that anymore, but we do have this weird way of wording things: establish, implement, and maintain. All right, so we want to make certain that it's appropriate to the purpose and context. Well, that's kind of what they referenced here in communicating it, relevant to interested parties, or be available to relevant interested parties. Provide a framework for setting the objectives. Objectives are very, very, very key. Include a commitment to satisfy applicable requirements. You can kind of give lip service to that one sometimes. And include a commitment to continual improvement. This last one oftentimes is lip service and really ought not be. This continual improvement, these two words, truly are the heart of any management system. We are not looking to maintain status quo. We are looking to continually improve, to advance, to change, to evolve as the industry, the world, technology does. We want to make certain we are there and that we can keep driving and moving forward. I mean, just take a look at any of the companies that have been on the NASDAQ or any other major stock exchange. They don't really linger very long. They come up, they do really well, and then linger and fall off. It's even more fun to take a look at how many of them have gone bankrupt. And I would argue a key reason for that is that they did not have a true vision and policy and commitment to what their company does. They lose sight of it. They're not able to continually improve. So happens with small businesses all the time as well. We just don't make it in the news that often. But those are the basics of the policy. So let's go down a little bit here and talk about the objectives. So that's going to come in clause 6. Whole other fun conversation on why the policy's in one clause, objectives are in another, but we won't dive into that today. Perhaps in the future, though. So quality objectives got a lot of requirements here, but it's not as complicated as it sounds. Has to be consistent with the quality policy. Okay. So you got to be able to say this objective helps us meet in this way. Doesn't need to be documented, but you need to be able to explain to an auditor or yourself or top management or investors or whoever, this is why this objective is important. We really think this objective is a litmus test to tell us if we're succeeding or failing with the policy. And that's the key. These objectives, this is not your full list of KPIs. Your objectives are your litmus test to know at a very top level, are we succeeding or failing with our quality system, our health and safety, environmental, whatever the management system is. This is your litmus test. If these numbers go wrong, we know there's not just one, but probably several issues that we've got to address. So don't think about this as our list of KPIs or even our most important KPIs. These are the KPIs that are going to be our indicators if we've got other systemic issues within the business. Now, if that's the case, they have to be measurable. I think that goes without being said, but I hate to say how often I see objectives that are far from measurable. Don't use words best. Don't use work towards. Don't use strive. Let's put a number in there, okay? And it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. You know what you need to do? You just need to write a corrective action to state we failed. Here's what we're going to do. Address your management review and actually follow up on the plan. If you do that, we're good to go. Take into account applicable requirements. Okay. Quality depends on the company. It may or may not mean a lot to you. If you're doing licensing work for someone else, This is huge. If you're on the environmental side of the world, oh my gosh, this is definitely huge. Safety side, big as well. So it depends on the legal requirements and contractor requirements you have, but this can be key. Nowhere near as important as being measurable. We have to make certain that it is relevant to the conformity of products and services to enhance customer satisfaction. Oh my gosh, could they be more wordy there? We want good products and services. We don't want pissed off customers. That might be something else fun to do. Let's rewrite the standard in common English. I think that'd be fun. Has to be monitored. I'm telling you folks, checking it once a year at your management review, not monitored. We need to have a schedule that we're checking it. Someone needs to be assembling this data fairly often, because if indeed this is your litmus test to know if the whole system is succeeding or failing on the top level, you really don't want to check that once a year. I mean, how often do you check your gas tank? You know how important that is. As you're driving, you're probably checking it a couple times a day, especially now with how expensive it is. So that's monitoring. Checking it once a year, you're gonna flop. So we got to do better. Must be communicated. Well, this kind of goes up along the same lines of what we talked about with the policy. The people need to know about it. They need to know it's there. They need to know some information about it. We might gotta make sure it's communicated. They need to know if we're doing good or doing bad. If they can't tell me, are we doing good or bad here? We might have an issue. So today, go out on the shop floor and ask someone about one of your objectives and say, do you know if we're doing good or bad here? And they might be like, well, I think we're doing good. Well, why? It'd be very interesting to see what you get from them. And I love this last one. I'm so glad this is in here. They must be updated as appropriate. If you have you've got a 5-year plan for the business. So let's think about that. 5-year plan for the business, and you know where you want to take it. And that means you've got to hit certain targets and measures in that 5-year period of time. But you say to yourself, well, that's a KPI, not an objective. But if this is really critical to your organization, I would argue this ought to be an objective. And you know what? That means that in 5 years, once you hit it and that number is good and golden, or you changed your mind and said, you know what? COVID hit and we took our business in a whole new direction. Well, update it. Issue a corrective action stating we're updating it, why we're doing it, what the new plan of action is, update the document and move forward. Make sure you address it in your management review. But these are the basics of the policy and objectives. Okay, not overly complicated. So let's take a look at a couple more things here. So I'm going to pull up the article just because I've got some good information in here. No need to reinvent the wheel. So let's talk about a few things here. We'll actually start with the objectives. We mentioned here they're not simply KPIs, but let's use an example here. An example of a poor objective, and I've seen this a few times, might be something as a decrease in nonconformities. Okay. Well, I mean, I think we can all agree fewer nonconformities is good. How much of a decrease? Over what span of a time? Is there a certain gray area? Like, hey, this is our target, but if we hit this, maybe that's kind of a yellow area. And we're going to watch it and we'll follow up again in 2 months. And if it hits red ever, like big issues, corrective action, bring management in, we got to fix it. It's okay. You can set those things. So that's an admirable goal, but it's not measurable. I can't use it. It's effectively useless. It's lip service. So maybe we could say we want to add a decrease in nonconformities of 10% annually. Well, that's getting better. Okay, so then we can take a look at last year's nonconformities. Now, you probably need to add some details in here about how you calculate it. Go ahead and put that in the same document that you list your objectives, whether you list it in your manual, a separate policy document, separate objectives document, wherever you list it. Go ahead and include that calculation in there. Don't leave it to your future self to remember how you did it and state we're going to take the total number of products, produced or shipped during XYZ time period and divide by the number of NCRs related to production and service provision following these codes. And that's how we'll get our number. Cool. Now, at some point in time, if you continue decreasing by 10% year over year, at some point, especially if you're a smaller business, that means you hit zero. Now, that's great. I would love to have zero nonconformities. But I'll be honest with you, anyone that tells me they had zero nonconformities, typically don't believe it. Typically, that's a sign that they've not been looking hard enough or deeply enough. So this is an example of why you might want to update that objective at some point in time. So instead of decrease by 10%, once you hit that good number where you know we're running a good solid business, we've got less than, a tenth of a percent of defects coming out of here. We're fantastic. Guys, let's maintain it here. Fantastic. That shows continual improvement. That shows everything we're looking for, policies and objectives. So great kind of way to take a look at it. And it's just one example of an objective. Let's take a look here at the quality policy. I know I had an example in here. Give me a second. It's been a little while since I read through my own document here. We'll just talk about it here separately. I probably should take a little more time to do my homework. But when you're talking about a quality policy, what we want to do is make certain that we are combining a combination of our mission and purpose statement, which, while outside of the scope of ISO 9001, you exist for a reason. So we want to talk about how our quality management system, how our safety management, environmental management, we want to talk about how these help us achieve that purpose and vision. Now, granted, the purpose of most organizations is to generate profit, but we don't generate profit unless we generate value. And we generate value because we have some sort of a mindset and vision and mission in mind. So that's where you want to start with a quality policy. Go ahead and get that mission or vision statement, put it down on paper, review it with multiple members of your team, even let one of your customers, if you've got a great relationship with them, review it and say, does this match what you've experienced from us? Does this match what you would want from a supplier in our position? Great questions. Then you can start adding in some of what honestly is a little bit of lip service. Now, I know I'm probably going to upset a few people saying that, especially folks that do a lot of the ISO auditing, but let's be honest here. Some of this is lip service. So we're going to go back up to establishing it. So we want to provide a framework for setting the quality objectives. That's actually a little hard to do verbatim. That is more of honestly, if I were to rewrite the standard, I would rewrite it to say that our quality objectives must be in alignment with the policy. Pretty much the same thing there. You can make an argument both ways if you meet it one or the other. Includes a commitment to satisfy applicable requirements. Honestly, you can add a little tagline in there to maintain, XYZ customer satisfaction through the development and delivery of ABC processes, meeting all legal and contractual requirements as identified during blah, blah, blah. That's fantastic. Then you want to say, and continue to improve, and to continually review and make improvements year over year to maintain alignment with industry, market, and technology changes. Okay, that helps us out just a little bit better there. But when you're taking a look at the policy and objectives, let's make certain that these really are documents and measures that truly help you continually improve, that truly help you to continue to build and grow your business. So that's really it for our policy and objectives. Definitely encourage you to check out the website, check out the blog post, the blog that we have up there. Tons of good articles. And if you've got a suggestion for something else you would like to see, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But with that, guys, y'all have a great day, and I hope to hear from you soon.